Japan is facing a demographic crisis.
Tremendous pressure on the country.
With its birth rate at an all-time low.
And if this trend continues, Japan as a country will cease to exist on the face of the earth. In the year 2022, Japan lost more than 500,000 people, which is even more than the entire population of Luxembourg. Japan, which is the 11th largest country in the world by population, is losing its people way faster than someone could possibly imagine. Take a look at the list of countries by average life expectancy, where Japan ranks number 1 with an average of 81.6 years for males and 87.7 years for females. However, compared to Western nations like the United States ranking at 51, the UK at 30, and Canada at 20, Japan has been losing way more people annually than the 3 countries combined. It's estimated that the population of Japan will dangerously shrink to a mere 97 million by the mid-century. And there are several factors that have led to the existential crisis in Japan, including low birth rate, its geography, social, political, and economic norms. And Japan has been dealing with the problem of low birth rate for more than 18 years since the death rate surpassed the birth rate in 2005. One of the primary factors contributing to Japan's low birth rate is a trend towards delayed marriage and childbearing. Many young Japanese people are choosing to focus on their education and careers and are delaying marriage and parenthood until later in life. This has led to a smaller window of time for women to have children in Japan and has also resulted in a lower total number of children overall in a woman's lifetime. The country has been witnessing one of the lowest birth rates in the world, with a total fertility rate of just 1.36 as of 2020. This means that the average woman in Japan is having fewer than 1.4 children compared to the world average of 2.3. Also, Japan has seen a shift away from traditional gender roles and family structures, with more young people placing a greater emphasis on individualism and personal fulfillment. With the economic development in the country, job opportunities and education have become better and better over the years. An aspiring young population from both genders have been jumping on the bandwagon to have a higher education and achieve higher career goals, and giving little to no attention towards building their own family and having children. This has led to a decline in the importance of marriage and parenthood as social expectations, and has contributed to a rise in the number of people choosing to remain single or childless. On the other hand, Japan has the highest proportion of elderly citizens of any country in the world. Over a period of 40 years, the number of Japanese 65 years or older nearly quadrupled to 33 million, accounting for 26% of Japan's entire population. In the same period, young children, 14 years and younger, decreased from 24.2% to nearly half at 12.8%. The result, the sales of adult diapers surpassed the sales of baby diapers in 2014. Such an overturn of demographic makeup of Japanese society, referred to as population aging, which has taken place in such a short period of time than any other country, has become one of the greatest concerns for Japan. According to economists at Tohoku University, over 40% of the Japanese population will be above the age of 65 by 2060. And if this trend continues, Japan as a country will cease to exist on the face of the earth. And not just birth rate imbalance, the geography of Japan has also played an important role in disrupting the demographics of Japan. You see, a large portion of Japan's terrain is mostly rugged, mountainous, and covered with dense forests. About 73% of Japan's is mountainous, having many active volcanoes, along with 68% forest cover. Such a geographical composition leaves very less opportunities for urban development to take place evenly all over the country. This population density map of Japan clearly shows the concentration of people in major prefectures of Tokyo, Kanagawa, Aichi, and Fukuoka. And if you compare it to the topographical map of Japan, it perfectly aligns with the highly densely populated prefectures of Japan, all located in the coastal flatlands. And thus, all major cities and prefectures in Japan are located on the coast, which forces major population from all over the country to move to these places in search of education and jobs. And such a high concentration of people in a limited urban space create major problems like increased cost of living, lack of affordable housing, and generally expensive goods and services, which also means a large amount of people are competing with each other for the same space and services. Take Tokyo, for example, the most populous and the capital city of Japan. In fact, it's so dense that there are almost 6,000 residents per square kilometer. And given the changing social norms in Japan, people who are looking forward to live a better urban life with better education and job opportunities flock to places like Tokyo, which is known for being a world-class city with excellent infrastructure and amenities, which is also home to many of the country's largest companies and financial institutions. This means that there is a high demand for skilled workers, and salaries can be relatively high compared to other cities in Japan. But all of this comes at a cost. Prices in Tokyo are astronomically high that many people live paycheck to paycheck, and many more are focused on upscaling their skills and jobs to be able to afford a comfortable living. According to a report by Washington Post, many young Japanese men and women earn well, spend to the hilt, dress well, and travel frequently, and are in fact living happily that way that starting a family and having children doesn't even cross their minds until later in life when fertility rate starts to decline naturally. And a new term has emerged for such a trend in Japan: unmarried aristocrats. Many young Japanese women feel the burden of bearing and raising a child with limited childcare, unequal pay for the same 9-hour work, and limited maternity leave is extraordinarily high. They also feel that most of the responsibilities that come with raising a child fall upon women, and their husbands or partners are just not available to equally share this responsibility. But such a shift in trend is severely hurting the country at large. Declining population is not only affecting the demographics in Japan, but is due to hurt the economy of the country in the near future. Consumerism is one of the basic foundations for sustenance of any capitalist economy, which means when consumers are buying more goods and services, businesses have an incentive to increase production to meet that demand. This can lead to the creation of more jobs and increased economic activity. But seeing the current trend in Japan, where very few people are being born, and people in their old age with high life expectancy are putting a tremendous pressure on the country. Lack of people reduces the overall demand for goods and services, leading to reduced production, which also leads to reduced tax revenue required to run a country. On the other hand, people above the age of 65 require more attention in terms of increased medical care. And as projected, more than 40% of Japan's population will be above 65 years around mid-century, who would have little to no economic contribution towards the country in terms of jobs and taxes, as most of the people would have retired. And on top of that, they would be needing more and more personal care and medical attention as they grow older. Seeing a severe decline in birth rate, it's estimated that a large portion of the society may end up childless as they transition into their old age. At that point in time, people have to depend on their personal savings and retirement funds and would probably need a full-time caretaker in their early 80s. And the people who either don't have enough savings or can't afford to hire a caretaker would seek help from the government to take care of their needs, which means government will have to spend enormous amounts of money in old age care schemes, and on top of that, reduced economic growth in the country will deplete government reserves even further. This can inflate the economy further, adding more pressure on the financial obligations of the society. According to Japan's Prime Minister, quote, in the 2030s, the young population in Japan will decline at twice the current rate. The next 6 to 7 years will be the last chance to turn around the declining birth rate, end quote. So the real question is, how could the downfall of Japan's demographic makeup be saved? One of the main strategies that Japan is pursuing is to increase immigration, particularly of skilled workers and students. Japan has been loosening its immigration policies in recent years and has set a goal of attracting 500,000 foreign workers by 2025. This strategy would help the country to revive some of its young population and fulfill the shortage of labor force to some degree. Another policy to revive declining population is to encourage women to have more children. These policies include increased support for childcare, maternity leave, and other family-friendly policies. The Japanese government has also been working to promote economic development and quality of life in rural areas in an effort to encourage people to stay in these areas and to attract new residents. This includes initiatives such as promoting local industries and tourism and improving infrastructure. This will encourage people living in densely populated urban areas to move to less saturated areas that could help them reduce their cost of living, which could positively motivate them to have a child. Japan is a beautiful island country which has a unique culture, history, and heritage. But demographic decline is undermining the very definition of this country, its people. But its government and people are still positive, and many believe that with the collective effort of both better government policies and its society, the decline can be reversed. This is Stories Across, and thank you for watching.